The cozy American holiday you love? It's a lie. Everything cherished about this feast has been outlawed, forbidden, or slapped with a fine at some point in history. That picturesque family gathering you attend every November is actually a secret assembly of lawbreakers violating hidden rules. America's favorite holiday hides a dark, criminal past. Are you ready to uncover the truth? 1. The Transportation Security Administration enforces a ruthless liquid and gel ban on your homemade cranberry sauce and carry-on luggage. Thousands of pounds of delicious family recipes are treated like dangerous contraband at the airport. Officers dump your grandmother's prize-winning preserve into plastic bins right alongside oversized toothpaste tubes and cheap cologne. A tragic, gelatinous end. Bureaucratic vigilance strikes again. Have you ever had your side dish seized by security? Minors are systematically exiled from the main dining event, forced into a wobbly card table setup. 2. You isolate your own offspring from the good silverware and adult conversation until they reach some unspecified age of maturity. They sit on rickety folding chairs, spilling lukewarm gravy on paper napkins, banished from the primary feast for the crime of being young. A harsh social banishment. They're eating in exile. Is the kids' table a beloved tradition or just cruel isolation? 3. What happens when you try cooking your bird inside a beer can? The official turkey talk line operators are forbidden from endorsing any trendy internet cooking methods or rival brands. These frantic phone experts act as an elite crisis management unit, actively shutting down your chaotic bacon-wrapped deep-fried experiments before you burn your house down. A holiday lifeline focused on disaster prevention. They stop the madness. What is the most chaotic cooking method you've ever tried? 4. Ancient blue laws legally mandate all liquor stores across Massachusetts to remain locked shut on the holiday. The state government literally forces you to endure intense, unhinged political debates with your eccentric relatives armed with nothing but sparkling cider and tap water. You can't numb the pain of a dry bird or a screaming uncle because local politicians said no. A legislative ban on social lubricant. Forced family sobriety. Could you survive your family dinner sober? In 1959, the federal government nearly erased cranberries from the holiday menu over a cancer-causing weed killer panic. 5. The national terror grew so intense that the entire agricultural market collapsed overnight. Even the First Lady publicly refused to serve the red berries at the White House, swapping them out for plain applesauce to appease the terrified public. A de facto federal ban that almost deleted a staple food. The berry died. Would you abandon cranberries if ordered? 6. Homeowners associations frequently outlaw inflatable yard turkeys exceeding 6 feet in height. Your slightly oversized plastic bird is treated as an active, hostile threat to neighborhood property values. Board members patrol the sidewalks with measuring tapes, ready to issue brutal fines because your festive nylon decoration violates their rigid aesthetic guidelines. Freedom of expression ends where the neighbor's beige fence begins. They'll face the firing squad. Has your HOA waged war on your yard art? 7. Countless school districts have officially banned those classic, culturally inaccurate pilgrim and native pageants. Charming, clumsy children parading around gymnasium floors in construction paper hats are now considered walking contraband. Teachers dismantle the cardboard ships and hide the fake feathers, terrified of violating modern educational guidelines. The end of an era for handcrafted gobbler costumes. Cardboard history deleted. Did you ever play a tree in a banned school play? Over 20 state governments officially recognize the day after the feast as a mandatory holiday. 8. They actively bar their own public employees from working. The government legally mandates a screeching halt in basic productivity just to support a nationwide brutal stampede for cheap flat-screen televisions. Bureaucrats shut down public offices so citizens can fistfight over discounted air fryers, a state-sanctioned ban on productivity. Pure retail chaos. Is Black Friday tradition or just corporate greed? 9. Snobbish culinary purists enforce an unofficial ban on sweet potatoes buried under toasted marshmallows. Families happily shovel this sticky corporate marketing ploy onto their dinner plates, unknowingly violating the sacred, unspoken laws of fine dining. You take a humble root vegetable, drown it in processed sugar puffs, and pretend it belongs next to the roasted meat. A candy dish masquerading as a wholesome vegetable. Chefs weep silently. Is the marshmallow casserole a masterpiece or a culinary crime? 10. City fire codes aggressively prohibit the use of solid fuel meat smokers on small apartment balconies. That trendy, masculine dream of slow smoking your own bird is ruthlessly crushed by paranoid building insurance policies and angry fire marshals. You buy the expensive wood chips, prep the meat, and then the city threatens you with eviction before you even strike a match. Your culinary dream officially extinguished. No smoke allowed. Have you ever triggered an alarm cooking a holiday bird? Desperate fire departments beg citizens to stop deep-frying solid frozen turkeys due to the violent physics of expanding steam. 11. Dropping an icy bird into a pot of scorching peanut oil instantly vaporizes the water, turning your quiet suburban backyard into a high-budget action movie set. Flames engulf the patio furniture while the neighborhood watches your dinner turn to ash. A cataclysmic jet of boiling oil. Pure Michael Bay madness. Have you ever witnessed a deep-fried turkey disaster? 12. The original Plymouth colonists legally forbade entertaining uninvited native guests without the governor's explicit written permission. The historically celebrated heartwarming open-door feast was actually a restricted, politically vetted, and exclusive closed event. You couldn't just invite the neighbors over for a meal without navigating a maze of paranoid colonial bureaucracy first, a standing ban on spontaneous hospitality. The door was locked. Does knowing the truth ruin the wholesome myth for you? 13. Choosing to celebrate the feast with your friends instead of your blood relatives triggers an immense unspoken social ban. Skipping the traditional family dinner isn't a legal crime, but it unleashes a maternal guilt trip with its own massive gravitational pull. You trade passive-aggressive political arguments for cheap wine with roommates, alienating your parents in the process. A form of holiday treason causing a family schism. Pure emotional warfare. Are you team family first or a friendsgiving rebel? Before 1989, the majestic birds gifted to the president weren't pardoned at all. 14. The commander-in-chief simply ate them. Early politicians treated the elaborate lawn ceremony not as a noble act of mercy, but as a convenient photo opportunity with their impending dinner. They smiled for the flashing cameras, waved at the press, and then ordered the chef to fire up the ovens, turning a cynical political dinner plan into a heartwarming stunt. Should the president go back to eating the bird? 15. The rabid 19th century temperance movement led local governments to legally outlaw the sale of mincemeat pies containing alcohol. Innocent bakers and sweet grandmothers were essentially treated as ruthless bootleggers, smuggling ardent spirits inside holiday pastries. Police treated a warm, spiced dessert like a threat to public morality, forcing citizens to bake their spiked treats in the shadows. A delicious and technically criminal act of defiance. Pastry rebellion. Would you risk jail time for boozy pie? 16. Restrictive old blue laws in Pennsylvania still legally outlaw hunting on the final Sunday of the holiday weekend. A glorious 4-day vacation for dedicated outdoorsmen is arbitrarily slashed in half by centuries-old rules meant to enforce rigid Sabbath silence. You buy the expensive gear, pack the truck, and then sit on your couch staring at the wall because the state mandates a day of rest, a collision between modern recreation and ancient religious rules. Weekend ruined. Should ancient laws dictate our time? A real municipal law in Gainesville, Georgia, legally outlaws eating fried chicken with a fork. 17. Grandmotherly manners are literally criminalized as the city mandates you must consume your poultry with your bare, greasy hands. Use a shiny piece of silverware and you technically mock the local heritage. Tourists get caught off guard, staring at their plates in sheer terror of breaking the rules. The one place your grandmother must tell you to use your fingers. Utensils forbidden. What is the weirdest law in your town? Weirdest. 18. Corporate human resources departments frequently outlaw political discussions in the workplace during the short holiday week to prevent open hostility. The boring break room becomes a censored zone where tax policy arguments ruin the delicate pumpkin spice coffee atmosphere. Managers monitor conversations like hawks, terrified someone will mention an election and trigger a brutal departmental war. A preemptive strike against arguments. Silence mandated. Is this a smart way to keep the peace at work? 19. Aggressive hunting in the early 20th century drove the wild turkey so close to extinction that eating them was officially banned. For decades, your main course was legally restricted to boring domestic birds because the original, authentic symbol of the holiday became a fiercely protected species. Hunters devastated the population, forcing the government to step in and save the iconic animal from the dinner plate. Banned by extinction. A close call. Can you imagine the holiday without its signature bird? A town in Arkansas used to legally drop live turkeys from speeding airplanes until animal cruelty laws finally shut it down. 20. Locals defended raining live poultry from the sky as a cherished community tradition until aviation rules and common sense intervened. Spectators cheered as birds plummeted toward the pavement in a chaotic, feather-filled nightmare masquerading as festive entertainment. The main course arriving as an air-dropped projectile. Gravity wins. How did this horrifying spectacle last for decades? 21. High society etiquette in the 19th century officially banned the breaking of the wishbone in front of dinner guests. Anxious hosts were forced to secretly extract and dispose of the slippery bone in the kitchen to avoid looking uncouth and vulgar. Playing with an animal skeleton at a formal table was viewed as peasant behavior, unfit for polite, refined company. A beloved minigame labeled as a major social foul. Keep it hidden. Who do you fight for the wishbone in your family? 22. In colonial times, skipping mandatory church services on the holiday was treated as a punishable legal offense. You couldn't stay home to baste a roasting bird without being penalized as severely as skipping court. This transformed a gentle attitude of gratitude into a harsh, unyielding mandate. Constables fined citizens for prioritizing ovens over pulpits, demanding attendance under the threat of the law. Gratitude enforced like spiritual jury duty. No excuses. Would you survive if gratitude was legally enforced today? Most city zoning ordinances explicitly outlaw the raising of large poultry, destroying your urban farm-to-table dreams. 23. The romantic vision of harvesting a fresh bird from your tiny 20 by 20 grass patch is aggressively shut down by City Hall. Code enforcement officers won't let you keep a noisy, feather-shedding creature next to the neighbor's expensive patio furniture. Farm-to-table officially prohibited by the municipality. Buy it frozen. Have you ever tried to hide livestock from your local government? 24. The National Football League holds a ruthless broadcast monopoly, essentially banning any other major sports league from competing on the holiday. While you digest your heavy meal, your television choices are held hostage by an iron grip of professional gridiron action. You can't flip the channel because one corporation owns the entire afternoon block of national airwaves, a brilliant corporate strategy that banned all competition. Total domination. Is this a beloved tradition or just a brilliant corporate strategy? 25. Several states have passed sweeping laws banning large retail stores from opening their doors on the holiday to combat retail creep. The government forcibly steps in to prevent citizens from abandoning their families mid-bite just to buy a discounted television. Politicians decided you shouldn't be allowed to browse the aisles while the gravy is still warm on the table. Pursuit of doorbuster deals officially banned from interfering with dinner. Stay home. Should all stores be legally forced to close on holidays? Rigid corporate ethics policies outlaw employees from accepting luxury holiday gift baskets over a nominal value. 26. Artisanal cheeses and expensive smoked meats must be coldly rejected and shipped back to prevent the dirty illusion of bribery. You stare at a beautiful tower of imported chocolates, knowing HR will fire you if you take a single bite of the forbidden cocoa. A corporate ban on holiday generosity. The joyless compliance department wins. Have you ever had to surrender a delicious corporate bribe? 27. For over 50 years, the United States government legally outlawed Native Americans from holding their own traditional harvest ceremonies. While America celebrated its own bountiful harvest, federal agents aggressively criminalized the exact same concept for the continent's original inhabitants. They weaponized the law to crush indigenous culture while passing the gravy at their own tables. Active suppression of the original harvest festivals. Pure hypocrisy. Did you learn about this dark erasure in history class? 28. President Roosevelt outlawed the traditional November date, moving it a week earlier to artificially boost depressed holiday shopping numbers. The nation literally split in half for 2 bizarre years, celebrating on different dates in a bitter conflict dubbed Franksgiving. Citizens fought over the calendar while politicians manipulated a sacred feast to push retail sales. A holiday schism driven by economics, money over tradition. Would you support moving a holiday just to help the economy? Brutal World War II. Rationing effectively banned the ideal feast by limiting sugar, meat, and coffee. 29. Serving a massive dinner wasn't just expensive, it was viewed as an act of treasonous, unpatriotic indulgence. You couldn't bake a sweet pie without betraying the troops overseas. The state monitored your pantry, forcing families to scrape by on meager scraps. The government as the world's most demanding dinner guest. Starve for victory. Could your modern family survive a strictly rationed holiday meal? 30. Families enforce a desperate, unspoken ban on discussing recent elections or toxic cable news at the dinner table. Violators aren't fined. They're punished with a deafening silence as relatives suddenly stare intensely at their silverware. Say the wrong name, and the dining room transforms into a hostile, frozen wasteland of suppressed rage. A fragile, unspoken treaty born of sheer desperation. Keep your mouth shut. Who is the one person guaranteed to break the political truce in your family? 31. The original joyless Puritans fiercely forbade loud music, parlor games, and excessive celebration on the holiday. A solemn day meant for miserable fasting and quiet prayer has evolved into a gluttonous marathon of food comas and screaming at televised football. If the founders saw your drunken uncle wearing a foam turkey hat, they'd lock him in the public stocks immediately. Your modern celebration is their worst nightmare. Sinners at the table. How fast would a Puritan fine you for your Thanksgiving behavior? Mega retail chains. Unofficially ban exhausted employees from saying Happy Thanksgiving, forcing them to use a generic greeting. 32. Minimum wage cashiers are mechanically trained to withhold specific seasonal joy to comply with thick corporate inclusivity manuals. They scan your canned gravy and recite a sterile, pre-approved script that won't offend the legal department. A de facto ban wrapped in corporate neutrality. Soulless retail smiles. Does the shift to generic greetings bother you, or is it just smart business? 33. Amateurs are banned from handling giant parade balloons. Handlers must be officially licensed and certified. After a rogue cartoon cat balloon injured innocent spectators in 1997, wrangling a 50-foot nylon dog became a tightly regulated profession. You can't just grab a rope and walk down the avenue anymore. You need formal aerodynamic training to battle the wind. Banning amateurs from guiding cartoon characters. No rookies allowed. Would you pass the test to pilot a giant inflatable Pikachu? Frustrated pedestrians are legally banned from crossing the street in major cities hosting massive holiday parades. 34. You're held hostage by steel police barricades and endless marching bands. unable to buy a simple coffee from the shop directly across the avenue. Cops will literally write you a ticket for trying to dodge a rolling float on your way to a friend's apartment. Officially denied by the forces of festive pageantry? Trapped by trombones. Have you ever been trapped by a holiday parade? 35. Cities like Seattle and San Francisco legally outlaw throwing greasy turkey bones and leftovers into the normal trash bin. The exhausting post-meal kitchen cleanup is forcefully transformed into an enforced, legally regulated waste sorting operation. Dump the carcass in the wrong bin, and the sanitation department slaps your house with a brutal municipal fine. An environmental mandate invading your kitchen. Sort your garbage. Is this a smart ecological move or just another chore on an already busy day? 36. The rigid founders of the holiday aggressively outlawed the idea of a fixed annual date, believing it was a corrupt Catholic invention. They demanded holidays only manifest as spontaneous reactions to specific, sudden blessings from above. By circling the fourth Thursday of November on your shiny wall calendar, you commit a flagrant violation of the original rules, a scheduled tradition violating its own religious laws. Predictability is a sin. Should we go back to random, spontaneous holidays? 37. National parks legally prohibit you from foraging for natural firewood to fuel a rustic, cozy post-dinner bonfire. Your romantic pioneer fantasy of wandering the woods to gather fallen branches is criminalized by federal rangers protecting the ecosystem from decay. You can't collect dead leaves without violating the rules of the Department of the Interior. Officially forbidden in the name of ecological balance. The campfire remains unlit. Have you ever accidentally broken federal park laws for a cozy fire? Restrictive neighborhood ordinances and property boards outlaw chaotic family football games on public lawns to protect manicured turf. 38. The sacred American tradition of muddy, violent pre-dinner sports is treated as a finable offense, threatening pristine green grass. Guards in golf carts roll up to stop your teenage cousins from ruining the landscaping with their cleats. The sacred lawn protected from the horror of spontaneous family fun. Stay off the grass. Has an HOA ever ruined your family sports tradition? 39. Paranoid corporate lawyers have outlawed homemade dishes from workplace potlucks due to liability and allergy concerns. Aunt Carol's famous 7-layer dip is deemed an uninsurable legal biohazard. The beloved buffet table is now dominated by sterile, store-bought plastic containers with clear ingredient labels. You can't share your grandmother's recipe because the company fears a lawsuit. The corporate lawyer as the uninvited potluck guest. Plastic food only. Do you miss homemade office food, or are you relieved? 40. There is a rigid, unwritten social rule banning the posting of burnt food, lumpy gravy, or genuine family arguments online. Users are socially forced to curate a fake digital fantasy of matching sweaters and pristine tablescapes. You hide the smoke alarm disaster and the crying children just to project a flawless aesthetic to your followers, erasing the chaotic reality. Every Thanksgiving must be perfect, or it must not be shown at all. The grid demands perfection. Have you ever faked a perfect holiday photo? Traffic police warn that driving home in a massive post-meal food coma is essentially equated to driving drunk under the law. 41. Your desperate attempt to power through intense exhaustion after eating 3 pounds of poultry is flagged as legally reckless behavior by highway safety officials. Your bloated, sleepy reflexes behind the wheel pose a genuine threat to public safety. A sleepy drive home bordering on a legal ban. Pull the car over. Have you ever driven while dangerously stuffed with turkey? 42. A harsh, unspoken social ban exists on eating your dinner at a standard evening hour. The massive meal is brutally forced into a bizarre culinary no-man's land between 2 and 4 in the afternoon. You skip breakfast, starve by noon, gorge yourself while the sun is still high in the sky, and end up miserable and confused by nightfall. A shocking violation of temporal protocol. Time loses all meaning. What is the absolute perfect time to eat the main meal? Settle this monumental debate for us. 43. Strict noise ordinances in Aspen can instantly turn loud, passionate post-dinner family arguments into an official police matter. Yelling at your uncle from the front porch at 10 o'clock at night over a blown football play isn't just considered rude, it's a literal crime. Wealthy mountain towns deploy patrol cars to silence your boisterous post-meal debate to protect the peace of the elite. First Amendment rights do not cover screaming relatives. Quiet down. Would your family be arrested under this noise law? 44. Broadly written anti-noise laws in certain New Jersey towns technically make loud soup slurping a finable public nuisance. Enthusiastic slurping at the private dinner table crosses the line from annoying bad manners into a documented municipal violation. If the neighbor hears you smacking your lips over the gravy, they can call the authorities to restore order. A mother's command backed up by the threat of municipal law. Chew with your mouth closed. Should noisy chewers be legally prosecuted? Angry dairy farmers pushed state laws making it illegal to sell yellow-colored margarine to protect the butter industry. 45. Consumers were forced to buy bleak white margarine and mix in their own chemical dye packets just to make their dinner rolls look normal. Troopers inspected grocery stores, hunting down contraband yellow spreads to protect Wisconsin cows from synthetic competition. A bizarre state-mandated arts and crafts project. Butter rules all. Would you mix your own dye just to spite the butter industry? 46. Stern family matriarchs have enacted ruthless bans on cellular phones at the dining table, confiscating them in a wicker basket by the door. You are forced into actual human conversation, and the penalty for smuggling a glowing device in your pocket is worse than actual jail time. Break the rule and grandmother publicly shames you in front of 30 relatives for your screen addiction. A matriarch turned warden delivering deep, profound disappointment. Disconnect now. Does your family enforce the dreaded phone basket rule? 47. In 1705, an entire colonial town postponed the holiday because a severe molasses shortage made it impossible to bake pumpkin pie. The lack of a single dessert ingredient triggered a local crisis so profound it paused an entire religious and civic institution. Magistrates decided the feast wasn't worth having if they couldn't end it with a proper sugar rush. A crisis-driven ban on the holiday's most iconic dish. No pie, no peace. What single missing food would force you to cancel the holiday? Trendy diets enact an uncompromising ban on almost every traditional holiday staple. 48. Mashed potatoes, rich bread stuffing, thick gravy, and warm pie are all rejected with extreme prejudice by modern health trends. You sit at a table groaning with culinary masterpieces, but you can't eat anything except a dry piece of white turkey meat and some steamed asparagus. The feast transformed into a miserable nutritional crime scene. Carbs are illegal. Have you ever tried to survive a holiday dinner on a punishing diet? 49. Modern historians have banned the iconic image of pilgrims wearing dreary black clothes and shiny buckled hats, exposing it as a 19th century fabrication. Every modern decoration featuring a cartoon man in a buckled hat is a flagrant violation of historical accuracy. They actually wore bright reds and greens, but we prefer to sell fake, monochromatic colonial cosplay. An iconic law of history exposed as a colorful myth. The buckle is a lie. Does knowing pilgrims wore colorful clothes ruin the aesthetic for you? Hold on. Let's drop the script for a second. We've gone through 49 insane restrictions, but before I hit you with the final shocker, I need to hand out a special award for the most mind-shattering rule on this list. The winner isn't the TSA or the HOA. The winner is the fact that the original founders openly rejected a fixed calendar date. Our entire modern scheduled celebration is an accidental rebellion against its own roots. The schedule itself is a crime. Do you agree with our verdict? Let us know your pick in the comments. 50. The exact same Puritans who established the holy template for this feast passed a literal law in 1659 outlawing the celebration of Christmas. You heard that right. The spirit of the holiday isn't just about roasting a bird and showing gratitude. It's a confusing, treacherous historical minefield of forgotten laws, bizarre restrictions, and unwritten social rules created by the very people who founded it. What is the single most overrated Thanksgiving food? Sound off below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more world-twisting reveals.